G'day, it's Charlie ZL2CTM. Well, just to provide a final update on the oscillator, it's got to a point now where I'm not going to do anything more on it. I'm pretty happy where it is, and now going to look to continue on with the radio. So where did I get to last time? We were looking at using two back-to-back red LEDs to act as varacters. They worked very well, and I'll show you how they worked in a sec in terms of the frequency variation per turn. You can see in the inductor there, that is an inductor wound on a piece of wooden dowel, about 4.5mm in diameter. What I did to work out the calculation for that, you recall I was sort of somewhere looking for in the region of 2 point something microfarads. So for that particular arrangement there, I'm going to use the Wheeler inductance calcs. So the inductance of microhenries I should say, equals n squared r squared over 9r plus 10l, where n is the number of turns, the radius is the radius of the core in inches, so this is an imperial calculation here. The length, which is the other variable there, is also in inches. And for this formula to work, the inductor itself, the length of it needs to be greater than 0.8 times the diameter, or 2 times the radius. And as you can see there with that particular arrangement there, that's well and truly correct. So just quickly, I said 4.5mm was the diameter I'm using in terms of the wood, so that's 0.177 inches. So for the calculations, I'll be dividing that by 2 to convert that diameter into a radius. Naturally, I used, so in terms of working out the turns, what I decided to use was 26 gauge wire, and that'll give me roughly 58 turns per inch. So I wound it, and I got it as close as I possibly could, but in the end 58 turns actually took up 1.1 inches, so so be it. So anyway, so plugging those values into the formula, 58 squared over our radius squared, so again times our radius squared over 9 times the radius plus 10 times the length, 1.1 inches. Comes out at 2.23 microhenries. And when I wound that and measured it, it actually came out at 2.3. So the formula there was pretty close to what actually turned out to be in reality. Anyway, so that was pretty well spot on. In terms of the parallel capacitance, let me just sort of zoom up there. This is purely a junk box radio, so in terms of what I had available to me, that variable trim pot there is only 10 picofarads. I was hoping to be a little bit more than that, but it's not. So in parallel that I have a 47 and a 15 picofarad poly cap, just to increase its capacitance a little bit. And that works very well. So that gets me well and truly into the ballpark with the fine tuning being done with the varacters. Now I did do a change to the circuit when it came to the voltage, the variable voltage being fed to the varacters. You recall I had a voltage divider arrangement where I was feeding about 3.9 volts to the top of that 100k trim pot. That's the 10 turn blue pot there. That was way too much, funny old thing. So over the space of 0 to 3.9 odd volts, I was getting a variation in frequency of about 260 kilohertz. And because I had arbitrarily, right or wrong, decided that I was going to restrict this particular radio to the CW portion of the 40 meter band, in other words from 7 to 7.05 megahertz, I elected to make some changes there. So disregarding this top piece here, so just think this switch here is shorted, so 9 volts across the combination of 1.2 megohms, so that's a 1 meg and a 200k resistor in series, on top of that 100k trim pot there, with a 10 turn helipot I should say, allows me then, through the range of the voltage now across that 10 turns pot, the output of that voltage here, the delta V, when it's being applied to those two varactor diodes, you can see there after it's been cleaned up and through the RFC, gives me a 50 kilohertz variation in frequency, which is good, because if I hadn't done that, then my resolution at the 0 to 50k portion of the 40 meter band would have been quite coarse. But by doing that, by dropping the voltage across this, I get the full 10 turns to give me that variation. And the way that actually plots out, if I can fit that there, that doesn't look too bad. So this is the number of turns here on that 10 turn helipot, and here's the frequency of oscillation, and there's the rough plots of what the frequency was for each particular turn. So for example, after 5 turns it was approximately 30 kilohertz or 7.03 kilohertz. And the good thing is, it's a pretty straight line. It's certainly not logarithmic or any other kind of non-linear characteristics for those back-to-back red LEDs. So that's good. So I'm happy with that. So it worked out fine. Now you recall too, the other thing I wanted to do was have the ability to have RIT in addition to having the necessary offset for receive and transmit. So what I have an additional pot sitting in series with that 1.2k ohm resistor, and that's that second pot here, and across it is a switch. Now that switch will eventually be one of the contacts on the antenna relay switch. So that antenna relay switch is going to do a number of things. It's going to switch the RF between the receiver and the transmitter. It'll switch 12 volts between the receive and the transmit circuitry, and one of the other contacts, because I've got a 4-pole double throw switch, is I will use that to short out this 50k ohm resistor. So in transmit, this contact will be closed and this 50k ohm resistor is short circuited. So the full 9 volts will be applied to that 1.2k, which will result in a known frequency. So as an example, I won't zoom up on it, but we have a frequency here of 7.03 roughly megahertz. So if I was now to flick that switch to receive, what I want to happen is I want to have the frequency, the local oscillator frequency, reduce down to down approximately 700 hertz to then generate that audio frequency of 700 hertz for when I'm receiving the incoming RF. And if you go back to that original picture way back, that's what we're looking at here. So I want to, on transmit, I just want to be able to transmit exactly on the frequency that's been chosen, but on receive I want to have it that my VFO is 700 hertz low to generate a 700 hertz output audio frequency that I can listen to. And that's, whoops, apologies. That's all that switch does there. Now in addition, I've made that particular resistance there non-fixed, i.e. variable, a 50k variable potentiometer there, which gives me the ability to have a little bit of RIT. So if you're initially setting it up, you would have the RIT on, say, 0, we'll call it notionally 0, which will equate to a 700 hertz reduction in local oscillator frequency when the radio goes to receive. In other words, is in circuit. But as I just said, and as I mentioned earlier on, I do have the ability to have a little bit of RIT on either side, or up and below, so I can have a bit of a play with that. However, when you go back to transmit, irrespective of where that pot sits, it's now out of the circuit, and the radio will then take on the frequency that was set by the master 10 turn pot. So that's the theory, and that's the way I'm going to stick with it. So as an example, sitting up there, we have, it's a bit hard to sort of see both things going on at the same time here, we have 7.03 if I was to flick the switch. So I've now thrown the switch down here, and I've gone to receive. In other words, it's open. As you can see down there, the contacts are now open. So that potentiometer is now in circuit, and our frequency has dropped down by 700 Hertz, which just happens to be where I have that currently sitting. Go back to transmit. In other words, that switch is now closed, in the closed position, and we bounce back up to 7 close enough, it's down 10 Hertz, down to, or back up I should say, to 7.03. So that's how I'm going to leave it. That certainly simplifies the circuit somewhat, and that's where I'll go. Other than that, nothing too much else to say really, apart from the fact that I will continue to use those two red LEDs. I think they worked particularly fine. The frequency determining components here I will put into more than likely a shielded enclosure of some sort. I have no idea what box this is even going to go into down track, but it's prudent to have that sitting in a shielded box. Yep, and that's about all really. The only other change I should have mentioned is the that second transistor in the buffer amplifier. So we've got the main oscillator here, and then the two 3904s acting as the buffer. This one here was with an emitter follower to have that high input impedance. I reduced its emitter resistance down to 100 ohms just to have a little bit more current flowing through there to get my linearity back on the output, which allowed me then to have the 7 dBm drive. You can't quite see it there, but that's a 50 ohm resistor that's acting as the load on the oscillator there. Yeah, because theoretically the mixer I'm going to have will be 50 ohms. Other than that, works well. 9 volt voltage regulator there, so 12 volts in, 9 volts out. That 9 volts is feeding everything into the oscillator, including the voltage that's being applied to the 10-turn helipot, as well as the well, I'll call it an RIT, I'll call it RIT, the RIT pot there. I think that is about all really. Let me just see if there's anything on the other page. No, we talked about the inductance over here, the Wheeler calcs. That was particularly good. So yeah, there you go. Okay, well I'm going to knock it on the head there, and I'll shift my thoughts now to what the next part will be, which potentially might be making up the mixer. As mentioned earlier on, I'm not going to use any well, when I say commercial products, not going to use, for example, the SBL1 or an ADE-1 or the likes. I'll wind this using FT37-43 cores, and we'll go from there. Okay, enough said. I will say 73, and I will catch you next time. Cheers all.